Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. All right, let's talk LSU. Did you take anything from the defensive effort against South Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, that was a top 10 offense statistically. And of course, you can bring up who they were playing, and I understand that. That's a valid argument. But the point is that was a prolific offense, and you saw why it might be tricky to stop. I don't think that that's an offense a year ago. This defense is holding the 10 points, right? There's certain key moments in that game where they needed to step up, and they did. So I like a lot of what we saw out of the defense, and the defense is steadily improving where they're ranking in the 50s in terms of scoring defense. And yeah, they've played Nichols, and yes, they've played South Alabama early on, but they've also played UCLA, South Carolina, and USC. I mean, so they have a schedule that's probably as tough as anybody's, right? And then you can point at LSU's schedule and say, well, their defense only ranks like that. But, then look at teams like Ohio State.
Yeah.
Where their defense ranks and what the schedule they played was. And you'll start to realize, yeah, you can poke holes in just about anybody's schedule. So I think we're showing steady improvement. I think this is a defense that there's no bend, don't break to this defense. It's make the play or break for this defense. And I think that they're able to make plays when they need to sometimes, and other times they're just getting cooked. And I think that's what they are as a defense.
I thought the most impactful quote that Brian Kelly gave after the game was, "We've been rolling 6 guys in there at safety. The rolling's going to stop in 2 weeks." What's your best guess on what they do at safety against Ole Miss, at least to start?
Well, I think that they're kind of committed to Jason Spears as the most talented player back there, and they're going to live and learn with him. They're going to accept that he has a learning curve and he's going to make mistakes. And let's say he's slightly worse than, say, I don't know, a veteran guy like say Ryan or something like that back there, right? Who do you think is going to improve more after those mistakes? The fifth-year safety who hadn't lived up to his recruiting billing, or the true freshman high 4-star? Of course, it's going to be Deshaun Spears who improves more with each and every mistake. And then probably Jordan Gilbert is who I assume will be back there, but we'll see. They could go a couple different directions. And then the star is going to be a question, too, now. If they put Toviano at purely a star back and stop rotating him around, will he fight for reps? Because he hadn't gotten any significant reps, but Brian Kelly's talking about like they want him to, or does Major Burns hold on to that?
We all know that Toviano had legal issues at the end of the summer,
Sure.
And we know that he wasn't participating fully in practice when we were allowed out there early. We also know he was a 4-star recruit and did play some last year. So why do you think he hasn't been used on defense really at all?
Obviously since fall camp, and remember, we got kicked out of fall camp earlier
Yeah.
than we did last year. So we didn't get as good of a look. I really like to end the fall camp looks. I know a lot of media guys say, we've been here 3 weeks. We've seen what we need to see. I really like to see how the team comes together at the end of fall camp. We didn't get that. So I don't have a full answer, and I have to lean on trusting what Brian Kelly is saying. I really do believe that they've been trying to find a home for him. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? Is he a star? And they've really just now kind of decided, okay, we got to make a decision. You go and start. That's what I think. But no, he hasn't gotten any substantial reps this year. I believe he played a little bit of garbage time against South Alabama, and I remember saying, man, I hadn't seen much of him this year. But we'll see. I think he's got a ton of talent, but I know people like to bemoan Major Burns, but he does make plays every here and there, and he is a big-bodied guy. And sometimes you take that veteran presence for granted every time you see him get burnt downfield.
How big a difference is the corner duo Zy Alexander and Ashton Stamps to Ashton Stamps and, say, P.J. Woodland, or Ashton Stamps and J.K. Johnson?
Yeah, I think Zy Alexander is kind of proving himself to be your best corner right now. I don't think any of them are particularly great. I think Ashton Stamps is starting to show many kinks in the armor down the road. I think, during fall camp, we were encouraged that he would be probably a little bit better, but he just kind of is what he is. I still believe P.J. Woodland is your most talented cover corner back there, right? But I think the issues that PJ Woodland have are physical ones. He needs to develop physically before he's ready for an SEC grind. We're talking weight and stuff like that. I don't think PJ Woodland's going to be a guy who, okay, just put him out there and let him make mistakes and learn the system and he's going to get better. I think he needs another offseason of weight room. But that being said, I do think him and J.K. Johnson are serviceable rotating in. I think that there's something to be said for if guys aren't the best out there, if you don't have a Patrick Peterson or whatever out there, there's something to be said. Well, let's keep some fresh legs out there. So I think they're doing a good job with that, but we'll see.
This is pretty open-ended, but it's intentional, and I'll just kind of let you go wherever you want with it. I mean, this was always the reset that we were looking at post-USC. Once they lost that game, you were just going to be, okay, well, can you get to the bye and then assess how things go before probably a top 10 Ole Miss team, which may not be, comes in. How do you feel about where LSU is right now?
Well, I actually was one of the few people who said there is something I'm looking for in their South Alabama game to judge this team by, because you can't tell me the team that couldn't run the ball against nickel, okay, all of a sudden can run the ball against South Alabama isn't improving, right? I was looking for consistency in that running game, and they averaged 8 yards a carry against South Alabama. In fact, in the first half, even if you take away Caden Durham's big run he hit on the first play for 71 yards, even taking that away, okay, they still averaged 8 yards a carry in the first half. I like what I'm seeing. There's some things that are suggesting this team is heading in the right direction. I think the running game, I cannot stress enough, I've said it all year, your offense is going to be clunky until you can get 3 yards with consistency. It just is. You can't take downfield shots and medium passing game on 3rd and 3 and make a living like that. It's going to be a clunky offense. You're going to be like, well, we had a couple successful plays, but we're punting again here. And that's because you can't convert short yardage and you can't put yourself up in desirable downs. I'm talking about 2nd and 4. I'm talking about 3rd and 2. You know what I mean? You can't set yourself up with that without a running game as well. So I like what I've seen out of the team. I think the defense is what it is. I think that if you're going to improve and be a team that punches its tickets to the playoffs, you're going to have to be one that very much so improves dramatically on the offensive side of the ball. And rather than being good on offense, you have to be elite on offense. Maybe a Chris Hilton help for that. Maybe the emergence of Caden Durham. Maybe improving run blocking. All that. I do know one thing. You can't go over in your next 2 games against Alabama and Ole Miss. You got to pull one of those games, right? So those are 2 teams you're probably not going to be favored against at this point, but we'll see. You got to pull one of those wins. You cannot lose 2 more games this year.
You saw a lot of South Carolina when LSU went to Columbia. I personally was really impressed with their defensive front against what I really do believe to be a good LSU offensive line, and they made them look pretty average that day. What do you think happens tomorrow in Columbia, Ole Miss and South Carolina?
Yeah, I don't have any kind of score prediction. I do think Ole Miss wins the game, even though if you use transitive properties, well, South Carolina beat the heck out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. Then Kentucky beat them. I get that, but I do think it is a revenge game. Teams when they lose, they tend to tighten up and play with a sense of urgency the next week. I'm just glad that looking at the writing on the wall, it looks like South Carolina is going to get that revenge blow, not LSU. So that's a good thing that lines up. I really like the situation that LSU, the context in which LSU plays Ole Miss. LSU gets a bye, Ole Miss loses to Kentucky, and then goes to South Carolina, a team that's very physical. I mean, this is going to be a team that is going to – LSU went into Columbia and had a dogfight, man. I mean, they got kicked in the gut, and that's what you really want for your team to be – your opponent to be doing the week while you're resting up at home, on the PlayStation, they're getting punched in the gut. That's what you want. So I love the framing in which LSU plays Ole Miss, and it's at home. So that's a tough stretch for Ole Miss and a manageable one for LSU. Maybe even if Ole Miss is the better team, I could see why they say home field advantage is worth, 3 points. Well, I could see, especially a night game at Tiger Stadium, I could see that being worth maybe 5 based on the context of this game. So I like a lot of what I'm seeing from that.
We'll talk about it next week. Enjoy your weekend, Preston. Thanks, man.
All right, Hunt. You too, man.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.